High Level is a full CRM and marketing platform, and I've used some of the best in the SaaS industry. And we are live from LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch. And I think that's it for now. I didn't connect Instagram. It's Revening's Wednesday. Welcome to Wednesday, Revenue Party people. We've got our hot topics and our hot guests that we're going to be getting into. So I don't want to wait too long, but really quick, I want to make sure I give a shout out to Cherry Assistant, and I couldn't make any of this happen without the help of Layla, who's here in the background helping to produce the show. And she helps not only me produce this show, but us produce shows for our clients as well. And there's probably a virtual assistant somewhere in the world who is in alignment with the needs that you have. It may not be producing live streams, but it may be something else. And we'll have an ad during intermission where we'll show you a menu of some of those services. But check out Cherry Assistant and let them know that you heard about them through Wednesday. And, maybe it's time for you to start delegating. So explore that. But also want to make sure I mention High Level. So we use High Level as our in-house CRM and marketing automation platform, but then we also white label it and use it for our clients. So anyone who works with Reventing, either as a service client, so we help people go live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, just like we do here, and then we repurpose that to podcast, short form video. And so, we want to create a guest booking calendar. We want to find all the registrants who registered to attend and put them in the CRM. So for us, it's been a really great agency CRM platform, and it's only $97 a month for 3 accounts. But yeah, I white label it. We give it to our clients, but I would also like to encourage you to try it out, even if it's just for you, or if you want to white label it as well. You can either scan the QR code on the screen, or if you're listening on podcast later, go to reventing.com/high level. But without further ado, I want to make sure that we get right into tonight's event. So welcome to the show. We have Garus Booth and Whitney. Okay, I should have asked how to say your last name and your middle name. Is it Duenas?
It's Duenas Richardson, and it's all my last name.
Perfect. It's all your last name. Thank you so much for sharing that. Well, in good old-fashioned Wednesday style, we want to put 2 minutes on the clock and ask both of you to fill 2 minutes telling us your unique story that, connects the dots on your LinkedIn, because we can go search you on LinkedIn, and I'm sure many of the listeners will, and we'll see your resume. But what makes you human? So, Whitney, could you kick us off with your 2-minute story from birth to what brought you to now?
I sure will. Hello, everyone. My name is Whitney Duenas Richardson. I am a Chamorro and Dutch mom. I grew up on the island of Guam, and I remember from being 6 years old driving back beside parcels that were commercial retail lease spaces and saying, "Mom, we should really rent that. We should rent that. Let's do something." No idea what in the world we were going to do. But it's one of my first remembrances of wanting to be an entrepreneur. And obviously I had no idea that was my path of life. Then we were 8. I've traveled all over Asia. I've been to 46 countries. We went to the Philippines a few times when we were on the island of Guam. And I saw this gentleman without legs on a skateboard. And every morning now I start my morning mantras with being thankful that I can move my body and I'm healthy and I can work out. And so that really stuck with me. We went back a few times, saw the same gentleman year after year. So that created me becoming more empathetic and globally curious about what's going on in the world around me. So when I moved from the island of Guam to North Carolina, it was my senior year of high school. I graduated high school at 16, college at 19, started my first and only, I guess I had 2 full-time jobs. My first full-time job, within 6 months, I quit, opened up a fitness studio. COVID happened and closed the fitness studio, started running my own marketing firm, kind of sunset that for a little bit, had one more full-time job, and then came right back to marketing. So I really enjoy it. The bulk of my background has been in social media marketing, from paid to organic. And then I went over to email and learned email to create that omni-channel integrated marketing experience. So now I own my own business, Global Sprouts, and I lead all of the marketing strategy. And I'm super excited to be here. I have 5 seconds left. I'm so proud of myself.
You did it in time. Congratulations. And I really appreciate you sharing your story. And holy cow, did you say you graduated college by 19?
I did.
Holy moly.
Wow.
How did that happen?
I'm pretty smart, but I also will give credit to, I just knew the system. I knew how to get out of the system and how to use my smarts to excel me out of it faster than a normal person, I guess. I will say I think I would go back and stay all 4 years, both high school and college, if I were to redo it again. But at the time, it seemed like the best steady path to go. And now I feel like I should have enjoyed those years a little bit more.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. So unique. And I would love to hear your story as well, if you wouldn't mind sharing, Garus. Same thing, from birth to what brought you to now, in 2 minutes. You got this.
I don't know if I can do from birth, but so my name is Garus Booth. I am the executive creative director and founder of The Booth. Basically, it's an animation company. We focus mostly on the why behind creative decisions as much as we focus on the art itself. So I come from an artistic and entrepreneurial background. Everybody in my family is either an artist or an entrepreneur or both. So building things that connect with people, building businesses, that's always been part of who I am. And I think that comes from this level of crazy curiosity that I have about things. So if something looks complicated from the outside, I just love to dive in and figure that out. So that curiosity pulled me into design and animation and all sorts of other things. I have a great number of passions and hobbies. Woodworking is super high on that list right now. And I think that fits into the design as well. And what I really like about design is it's about creating something from nothing, or applying creativity to these ideas that are disparate, and you find these invisible connections. And when you make those, they unlock a new understanding or a new way of looking at the world, which I think is really interesting. And that led me into animation, as a love of cartoons as a kid. It's just this other layer of storytelling that lets you create and imagine worlds that never existed before. And so over the years, I've been really lucky to be able to shape lots of businesses through that lens. So kind of building from what I loved as a child into a business that I have now. So for me, it comes down to really 2 things, though. It's that learning and translating. So learning enough about something, an audience or a business, really what's going on underneath it, and translating that into design and story and systems that make connections between the goals that they have and the creative that we can develop. So I've been doing that for about 20 years. But what still gets me excited is that intersection of craft and creative and strategy. And when those things align just right, the strategy goes away and it just becomes about art and creativity. And my mission really is to take that idea and make it simple and approachable for people to use in their businesses, and create things that people actually feel a connection to, whether it's something I'm doing physically with woodworking, they can actually feel it, or something we do with animation, something that exists on the screen.
Yeah, that is amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. And honestly, what stands out to me is that you said, part of your family came from a creative background.
Yeah.
So I like that. It gives you some diversity, and it makes sense that you would become a video person.
Yeah. A lot of traditional artists in my family. So it was an interesting upbringing.
So cool. That's what shapes you. And that's the stuff we won't find on LinkedIn. But Omar, thanks for being here. Dan, thanks for being here. Mark, thanks for being here. Let us keep this conversation relevant for you. So if you're tuning in, please conversate from the comments. We'll pull it up on the screen. We want to know your questions. We want to know your thoughts, your opinions. But let's dive right into our first topic, which is email marketing. Sorry, Layla, that was me. Strategies to boost engagement and sales. So this is all you, Whitney. Can you kick us off here?
I sure can. So I have spent the last 5 years really diving deeper into email and trying to understand how can we create a strategy to boost that engagement and those sales. And the way that I've done that is, I'm sure every email marketer has heard it to this point so far, but it's sending the right message to the right person on the right platform and at the right time. In order to do that, it's that mindset shift, right? So you have to get that buy-in. You have to understand email's not dead, but we have to have the right type of email strategies. And we're doing that by making it personalized. We're making it timely. We're making it valuable. Anytime that email is hitting that inbox, we want customers to say, yes, like this is exciting. This is what I'm looking forward to. Subject lines, they still matter. I love to open up an email where it's like, oops, and then I compare the two as a consumer. So part of our strategy when we do have an oopsie or something's messed up, we always say, hey, this happened. How can we kind of describe that? And that just tells your customer that you're relatable. You do make mistakes. It's nothing bad. And then getting that buy-in from leadership sometimes, if you're part of a team in a corporate environment or sometimes even a smaller environment, making sure that we're getting the buy-in from leaders that it's okay to make mistakes. It's not an end-all be-all. Know when to use plain text versus branded text. What's the difference? How can we send a plain text email without feeling like we're outdated or we don't know what we're doing? There's definitely a fine line, and knowing when to use visuals, use check-ins, sale promos, all of those, you really want them to be branded versus if you have a quick update, you want a personalized email send coming from said founder. Those you can always do plain text. And I think the deliverability rate sometimes is a little bit better when they're really, really personalized emails. Segmenting. I love segmenting. Global Sprouts uses Klaviyo for a bunch of them. I've used Oracle, Salesforce Marketing, or we use Klaviyo for a bunch of our email sends. I've used Salesforce. I've used Eloqua, Oracle, Hootsuite, HubSpot, or not Hootsuite, HubSpot, all of those. And I really think the standout email strategy that I've seen so far is when we're able to segment out and tailor those messages based on user behavior. So sending different product tips to the first time customers versus if they're repeat buyers, what are we sending them? If they're a subscriber, how can we give them those product tips that are applicable to what stage they're at in the journey? And that's really important, right? So like Whitney is a consumer of, what am I a consumer of? Let's say I shop at Lululemon pretty frequently. My messaging should be totally different than a customer that hasn't purchased yet because I'm already loyal. I don't need you to convince me to buy your product. I'm already doing it versus someone that's browsed your website a few times, hasn't converted, doesn't understand the value of spending $98 on a pair of leggings, which is a lot of money to spend on a pair of leggings. So making sure that they're understanding those and being able to segment them out. Someone like me is different than my husband. We're in two different genders. We are buying different products. I don't need to be delivered anything about menswear. He should. And making sure we're able to differentiate between the two. So I think segmentation should be at the top of it, of your strategy for email. Automations converting, making sure that you have those life cycle journeys, understanding where your customers at in their life cycle journey. Welcome series, they're abandoning their carts after they've purchased, how to get them back re-engaging in your emails. We do a bunch of free printables or lead magnets. So give us your email. We're going to send you something for free that's applicable to whichever client we're working on. For Global Sprout specifically, we send retargeting emails as part of our life cycle journey. We're able to teach them how can we get them to kind of convert and have that sale and those abandoned cart emails. And then post-purchasing, we sit down and we say, okay, you've purchased. What are some things that you can utilize after your purchase that apply to the item you purchased? So if you buy a Global Sprouts kit, we're telling you lesson plans to utilize the kit with your children. If you buy Lululemon, we're telling you how to clean your Lululemon clothes. They're different for different types of like leggings or shirts and stuff, the drying cycles. So we're telling you about that. We're making sure that the emails we're sending to you are personalized directly to what you are buying or what you want to buy. That is so important. I think we kind of, a lot of email strategies, I unsubscribe. I actually spend 5 minutes of my morning every morning. My email knows me. They know that I'm reading my emails at 8:17 every morning, right after school drop off with my kid. And that's when I get like a plethora of like 100 or so emails. So I spend 5 minutes, I unsubscribe, specifically to the ones that aren't applicable to me anymore, that don't apply to anything I've bought from them, and that don't quite make so much sense to be delivered in my inbox now. And then I'd say another tip, and this is my last one, is to use email and social together. So email can drive those clicks from social, and then we can retarget those users who didn't open the email. So you're driving clicks to social, and then you're retargeting those users as well. So it's really all part of that omni-channel and that life cycle experience and integrated marketing experience. So really making sure that you're tapping into each and every one of those and understanding as a whole, how are we working together, not working against each other. Every platform and every channel has a different style of voice and language and branding. So making sure that you understand that is helpful.
I love that so much, especially, what you were saying earlier in the conversation. And I want to acknowledge Chris Hardy. He says, driving revenue with cold calling, working with positive responses from email. So I think, Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, you're doing more cold email where you're doing like text only. And then I believe what Whitney's talking about is more like marketing email to people who've opted in. They've subscribed to your email. They said, I want to hear from you. And I don't know, there's two different approaches there, but correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, maybe you're doing marketing email. I'm not sure. I would call that more, it's still marketing email. It's cold email, but this is like, I don't know. I digress. Anyway, new territory then. Yes, absolutely. So I loved what you were saying about subject line. Curious, do you use AI for subject lines, or how are you incorporating AI in email marketing?
I don't. So we have someone on our team that helps really a lot with the copy for emails, and we try to make them as catchy as possible. And I feel like AI, at least for me, I use AI pretty frequently in all aspects of my business. And I can pinpoint almost 99% of the time what's being sent by AI. And I think the email is so personal that if a user automatically can tell it's AI, then I don't think that that's the best experience for them, because we're still thriving in a world that we want the personalized experience. So no matter how personalized that email is, if the subject line is screaming, oh, I didn't care about putting any type of anyone's actual brain into thinking about this, then I think it's a turnoff from the beginning.
100%. I couldn't agree more. You have to have that human touch. Oh, we've got Nina from YouTube saying, how do you balance between catchy subject lines without making it clickbaity?
That's a great question. I think just being honest about what your email is about, and then having some clickbaity subject lines, maybe once a month, not that frequently, once a quarter, even too, is kind of that balance. You don't want every email to be, oops, I messed up, here's another email, or get this now, right? You want to have that kind of combination of this is what my email is about. And I think it comes back to segmenting and retargeting too. So if you notice that a customer hasn't engaged in certain subject lines, they're telling you something. They're telling you that your AI subject lines aren't working. They're telling you that you're doing too many clickbaity subject lines. So understanding that on a deeper level and really analyzing, analyze, A/B test all day long.
Those are great questions. Keep them coming. Chris and Nina, thank you for being here. Anyone else who's tuning in, we want to hear from you. Plug in your comments and your questions. So I know email marketing isn't like your main thing, Garus, but out of curiosity, just as a marketer in general, what do you think makes a good email?
I mean, well, I don't know what makes a good email necessarily, but I did resonate with how you're talking about like segmentation. So we do that as well on the video side because we're generally looking at like a job role or something that's like a little bit broader. So I'm actually curious, like when you're talking about planning for these segmentations and like really making them personal, like what does your process for going about that actually look like? Because it seems like it's pretty granular.
It is, and dynamic content is the way that we do it. Is we have certain modules that appear. So one email build, right? But then we have different modules that plug in depending on like the back coding of the email. So Garus has engaged with an AI subject line, but Whitney hasn't. Mm-hmm. So we're sending 2 different subject lines, and it's all built in on the back side of it so that we can get granular, which is, to be honest, a total pain in the ass to build out something that granular and being that microscopic, right? Of how can we decide between the two? So it can be very overwhelming just in general with all of the differences and trying to target correctly. And you'll get a few that you mess up on and you're like, I did not code that correctly.
Yes, absolutely. We got a couple more questions. Let's get to Dan's though. What about using video in email?
It's a good question. We've done a bit of that, but I find that putting video in email, depending on what you're selling, isn't that effective just because like, well, I mean, Whitney can tell me, but I think a lot of the email clients don't necessarily natively support it embedded in the email itself. So usually it's a snippet from a video or a small loop that ends up being a GIF or something that gets placed within a video. But I think Whitney would probably have a better sense of like how those things perform and if people like seeing them or not. But that's kind of like anything that we've created content wise is it's usually lives somewhere else, but is a small loop or a segment that's pulled and used on the video or on the email itself.
That's definitely accurate. Videos, if anyone has a trick on how to embed a video, I would love to hear it. Yeah. They don't exist necessarily. And I have found that if we're trying to get people to watch a certain video, that's when we have one call to action. We send out an email and we direct that call to action to wherever that video lives on whatever channel or platform.
Like YouTube.
Yeah, exactly. And it depends on what type of brand you're doing, right? So if you have a younger generation that is actively engaged in watching videos, then cool, by all means do it. But some people, and different types of branding too, and different companies, people look to email to be that source of truth. So a lot of copy, less videos. So just understanding your clients and what they engage with, which differs across the board.
100%.
Yeah, the way we usually treat like email marketing for our business, at least, is that it's something that creates a bit of intrigue and, gives people enough information that they want to click through and learn more, but it doesn't give them everything right away. Because if you give them everything, then there's kind of no way to move them further down that funnel that you've created.
Good point. Good point. Would love to hear from the audience on video and email. I know for us, when I want to email a video, what I've done is just taken a screenshot of, say, the video wherever you have it. QuickBooks, not QuickBooks, QuickTime. QuickBooks is your, accounting, tax software, whatever, finance. But QuickTime or YouTube, take a picture of it there, like a screenshot of it, and then put that in your email and link the image. It is still going to send them to another page, but people think they're going to click a video. So that's how I've sent video and email sometimes. But yeah, you're right. There really isn't a way to embed video in email yet. And if anyone has done that well or has other ideas, plug them in. We want to hear from you. And we have Nina. She says, what software do you recommend for complete newbies? It can be overwhelming. And Nina, I'm guessing you're talking about email marketing software. So Whitney, what do you use?
It depends. If it's e-commerce, I love Klaviyo. Very easy to use depending on the size of the business. Salesforce Marketing Cloud can be big. It can be very useful depending on if you have a large company or not. And then HubSpot. HubSpot, I feel like, is pretty user-friendly. But Klaviyo is, if you're any type of e-commerce and tracking wise, that's been my go-to.
100%. Let's move into our next topic. That was really good. Thank you so much. And Garus, we want to hear from you in terms of video production alignment, because you are the expert in video. So from brief to team buy-in success, can you kick us off here?
Yeah, totally. So I guess I'll set the stage for how this like plays out from my perspective, at least. So usually you're in a room, a planning meeting or something like that, and someone there says, we need a video. And that's both like exciting, but also anxiety inducing. Because it's a straightforward question, but it's also the beginning of where a lot of things start to break down pretty quickly, because it can cause a bit of anxiety, because it's a bit of an unknown space for some people to operate in. Your brain kind of goes to figuring out what kind of video it should be. Maybe you try and start writing a script, or you start thinking about budgets and timelines. You start deciding, where does it live? Does it go on YouTube, LinkedIn, social? Maybe you start thinking, I should do some research and reach out to production companies. But the thing is, when somebody says to you, like, I need a video, it's like it's this request, and the request comes with a deadline. And I think the key is actually reshaping it from request with a deadline to a problem that has an outcome. So really the first step isn't script or platform or budget. It's to slow down and actually diagnose the problem. So what I like to ask is, to do that, is what belief or behavior do we need to shift, and how will we measure that? And that reframes it for everybody from we need a video to what are we really doing here? Like what behavior are we trying to shift with our customer? How are we going to know if that happened? So if you jump in, though, what happens is you get kind of vague briefs, you get mixed interpretations of what it should be, and that turns into a lot of revisions when you get into the process of actually making it, because there wasn't like clear goalposts. And usually stakeholders, a CEO or a CMO, they might get involved later. So when that happens, they're not quite sure where you are in the process or how things are working, because you don't have this system in place. And because of that, the story that you're trying to tell turns into like this feature list, especially with like mid-funnel explainer content, right? Because everybody who is a stakeholder wants to make sure everything they think needs to be there is said. And so it turns into this like list of things. And it starts feeling less like a confident strategy you have, and more like kind of a leap of faith. And there's a lot of pressure riding on like one piece of content to actually perform. So what I've learned over the years is the real work isn't just in the animation that comes later. It's actually in getting the team aligned on what you're actually doing. So if you are able to diagnose the problem, if you don't bring the stakeholders along, like you have to make sure that they understand what problem you're trying to solve, and you bring them along for that story. If you don't do that, the video that you're making might look great, but it won't actually move the business forward. And that's ultimately what we're trying to do. So what you kind of want to do is treat video like a system that you are running, not just a clip or a finished product that you post somewhere. And that's ultimately why I think that the job of marketing is so difficult, because with that alignment idea, you're actually aligning two sides. You're aligning the internal team, and then you also need external alignment. So aligning the internal team makes sure that your idea can actually be brought to life, everybody's on board, and that's the first stage. And then the second stage is the external alignment, so ensuring that it actually connects with the customer. And like, marketers have to manage both of those things, so it's quite challenging. So if you want, I can go into like a couple of ways that we can help frame that internal alignment. I think what it really starts with a mindset shift. So instead of thinking about just this outcome as a video, it's like thinking about it as a hypothesis. So what problem are we solving, and what do we think the outcome will be? So the way we do that, there's kind of like three main stages to it. So the first I kind of talked about was diagnosing that problem before we actually start doing something. And there's a couple of questions you can ask to do that. And those questions will dig into what the real problems are that you're trying to solve. So the first question would be, where are you losing clarity or momentum? And that can be anywhere in the business that you discuss that. And then what's the audience misunderstanding? And again, that could be anywhere within the business or the kind of overall funnel. And then what belief or behavior needs to shift? So, or what belief or behavior would you like to shift? And so those questions combined will get the conversation going about something that's a little bit more meaningful than just like, we need to create this story or this video. And then after you do that, what I like to do is actually sit down and define what success looks like on a single piece of paper. So to Whitney's point, like, who's the audience? And we like to segment those. So it can be multiple audience groups, but you really want to do this like one sheet with just a single audience on it. You can have multiple one sheeters, but you don't want to say, I'm going to hit 5 different audience targets with this single piece of content, because it's probably not going to be effective. So once you have the audience, then you want to jot down your objective for the project, and then a single message. And that could change, but you want a seed of an idea that's kind of like in the right direction. And then you want to take a look at what measurable targets could be. And I think we're going to talk about those later, so I won't jump into that too far, but there's a way to kind of tease that out. And then the final steps, the sort of really, it's the one that's a little bit more creative and a little bit more challenging to kind of execute. But I do have like a simple little framework that we sometimes use to make it a little bit simpler. But step 3 is really, and this is all internal stuff, right? So it's demonstrating value. And what that really means is, like, is this useful to the business? So everybody has like a different need within the business. So you want to look at what those are. So the CEO is probably going to care about the business impact. Sales might want to make sure they have a tool that they can like actually use. Brands interested in consistency, that voice and that tone coming through. So if you know the priorities of everybody, when you walk through the plan that you have, you want to be able to demonstrate to each of those different roles how the video content or the campaign that you're creating will actually address the concerns that they have. And so I have kind of like a simple framework that we use to actually do that. There's multiples that depending on the project, but the thing with this is, like, you're not going to all of a sudden have this like stroke of brilliance at 3 a.m. and be like, this is the idea. What you really need is just clarity on what the video is supposed to accomplish at this stage, so you can get that internal buy-in. So our best campaigns, what we start with is this really simple if-then statement. And so it's like, if we do this thing, then it will shift this belief. it'll unlock this action or move this metric for us. And this is how we help the team and the stakeholders understand exactly what the video is for and why it matters. And so I guess like to like put that, like frame that in like a more practical way. As an example, you could say, if we show you how the platform solves a problem that usually takes 4 tools to solve, then we'll be seen as a simpler, smarter choice and increase signups. Or another one could be like if we tie our product to the feeling of stress-free mornings for managers, then we'll move from just another tool to a thing that saves their day. So that approach transforms that like vague creative idea into something that's like a testable hypothesis. So your video becomes a solution to a really specific problem, and just not like content or story for the sake of it that you think relates to the business. So that's how we like to look at it. That's like kind of our high level approach to getting that alignment with the team internally, specifically.
Thank you for sharing that. I mean, you really went through a lot there. So we appreciate the full digest. I'm curious, Whitney, what is your take on that, or what stood out to you most there? Oh, you're on mute.
Thank you. I think it's cool of getting the buy-in and reframing it, like taking a step back, which I think a lot of managers, high-level founders kind of like automatically say yes to anyone above them, instead of saying, wait, well, what are we trying to solve here and how can we solve it? So that stands out the most to me because I think that's applicable to any channel, anything. Like, what is the overarching strategy and how can we help get us to that finish line with what we do, what channel specifically? So that's really my favorite part. I love that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Like our approach to this is both about the business's success, but also about the individual's success. So that idea you were talking about, like the knee-jerk reaction is, I'll get that done, when sometimes it needs to be, yes, we do need a video. Let's figure out what that video is going to do for us first, or why it exists. And part of the reason for that is later when you go to try and measure whether or not it was successful or not, you actually have material to work with, because you can say, we decided that we were doing this because of this, and this is going to be the outcome. And you might be wrong, but you will have learned something. It was like when you were talking about email marketing and that idea of like testing and iterating and seeing like what works and adjusting based on that. This is similar. It's like, you don't want that. You want a problem with an outcome that you can actually solve, or at least measure if you solved.
Yeah, 100%. Hopefully you can still hear me. Let me pull my microphone over here. I would love to hear from folks in the comments about all this. Like, who out there is, first of all, even doing anything with video? We did get a question, actually, a good one from Layla here. She's asking, if a business only has the budget for one strong video, where should they focus it for maximum impact, Garus?
Yeah, that's a super good question. I love it. I think like a lot of people's knee-jerk reaction is to go to awareness, paid media. And I think that's great, but it can be very expensive. So not only are you creating the content, but you're also paying for it to be distributed. So it does depend on the video, on the business. But I really love starting with either mid-funnel content. So you're helping people understand the benefits of using your product, or something later. Maybe you already have customers and you're looking to expand their use of your product. Things that explain what else can we do with this, or these are the other use cases, or kind of opening their mind a little bit to what the other possibilities are. And you can get to those things by talking to sales. They usually have like great insights and questions that people have asked them, and things that people are confused about, or things like that. And you want to take those answers, or you want to take those questions people have and answer them for them. It's very similar to SEO in a lot of ways, right? Fill in the gaps. But that kind of mid-funnel, people are trying to figure out
I
who
love
they
that.
should go with, and then that post-purchase, what else can I do with this? How does it work?
Thank you for sharing that. And we've got Nina asking, how do you weave in storytelling in your videos as part of the marketing funnel?
Hmm. That's also a good question. It's a pretty
Yeah.
complicated question in a lot of ways, but um, so it's a definite team sport. So we have uh, specifically we have writers and creative directors who shape the narratives and help tie that back to um, the ICP that we're trying to reach. Um, but storytelling is the entire thing. So it's just different types of storytelling. Like if you're talking about like a hero's journey or something, that type of storytelling, you could look at it from the perspective of your ideal customer. You could make them the hero of the story and talk about their pain points moving through learning about your product and the success they have. That's a really simple story, right? Like it's just this little narrative arc that you create. But it's just about looking for those opportunities to play with different types of narratives, I suppose. But I wouldn't say it is the whole thing. It's storytelling at the smallest level. If you're just like, making somebody more aware of something, um, to a full on, like a movie that you're creating. So yeah, it's I think looking at, if you tie it back to the funnel though, I suppose it's like looking at the challenges that your ICP is having at those different stages within the funnel. And then trying to create stories that help move them along in their journey. Um, and I think I'll touch, I don't want to spoil it because I think I'm going to touch on this in the ROI side of it, because it's the storytelling part and the funnel stage is actually related to whether or not the video is successful. And there's something in there in how you measure success beyond just like people watching it. So I think, Nina, if you stay on, you'll probably get a much better answer than I'm giving you right now, because I'm trying to dance around it without giving it away.
Interesting. Any other questions from the audience? We would love to hear. But in the meantime, this has been a really great topic, and we have 2 more really excellent ones to get into. And we're going to do that right after these messages from Cherry Assistant.
This is Mike, also known as Clean with Mike on Twitter. Mike hired a virtual assistant from Cherry Assistant about 2 years ago. Now he has a $50K per month business fully managed by a remote operator in South Africa. His VA from South Africa does the following: closing inbound leads on the phone, Yelp and Google and Facebook, manages his CRM and Go High Level, deals with rescheduling, cancellations, any issues, hires and manages the cleaners, and sends them daily reports and updates. Mike has a fully cash flowing business managed by a remote operator for only $8 an hour. You can also hire a US equivalent worker in the Philippines, South Africa, Latin America for a fraction of the cost with Cherry Assistant. Be like Mike and grow your business with offshore staff.
If you're listening on podcast, on screen, you'll see that some of their services include lead generation, CRM management, prospecting assistance, sales presentation preparation, data entry and cleanup, customer support, project management assistance, and so much more. Head on over to cherryassistant.com and check them out. Let them know that you heard about them through Wednesday. We are happy to work with them. Thanks to Layla. Layla's here. We met her through Cherry Assistant. They help line you and place you with a VA who has the skills you need, as you just heard with that like cleaning service. Obviously, what I do here as a marketing agency is so much different. So you want to talk to them and get placed with someone who has the skills you need and can do it within the time frame that you need. So by that, I mean, they'll work the hours that you work, even though they might be somewhere else in the world, if it works for them. That's why Cherry Assistant is great, because they just find the right people, the right time, and the right place. But also want to encourage people to just go to reveting.com/high level and try 30 days with High Level. This is the CRM and marketing automation platform. So I'm doing email marketing out of there. We do our newsletter out of High Level. It's app.reveting.com because we white label it and we give it to our clients as well. but try it out. It's a free trial, and I get obviously affiliate commission, so I would get a 40% cut. So I have a benefit in you succeeding on there. So reach out and let us support you during your 30 days. And who knows, maybe it'll be a fit for you. But other than that, let's get into topic number 3, which is, I believe, related to social media retargeting, campaign strategies to drive conversions. Whitney, could you please kick us off on this topic?
I sure can. I love retargeting. I think it's really fascinating. It's cool to see a customer go from being cold to being warmed up. And I personally do that through retargeting. So if I or any of my clients have an event where we are offering a freebie or doing some type of giveaway and we have those emails, we utilize those to retarget on social media to close the deal. So you're not introducing, you're solely just reminding them, and they're already warm. They know who you are. They're associated with your brand. This is not brand awareness. This is that second chance to get in front of them and really close that deal. And so cool to see even people that are on email that haven't opened. You can retarget them on Facebook, and Facebook will say, hey, like, we're still here. We're still top of mind. And I think we should all understand that being top of mind is the best experience across the board. So staying top of mind is retargeting those email non-openers. If they didn't see your message, hit them on TikTok, hit them on YouTube, hit them on Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest with that same message, which brings me to cross-channel consistency. Right message, right channel, right person, right time. They need to be the same, but different per channel. So utilizing your brand guide if you have one. If you don't, I highly recommend getting one done. A digital ethnography, understanding your customer to their core is super important. Your tone, your match, or your tone, your call to action, the graphic can be similar. All of that should match so that they're consistent across the board. You have that same message. You're hitting them consistently across all of these platforms, but also you're not doing it past 7 days. So if the event happened today, September 17th, next Wednesday, we stop retargeting them. Don't waste your ad spend, your money, your time investing into that customer. More than likely, they're not going to convert at that time. So making sure you're moving them from those buckets from being warm to being hot to maybe being warm again and then potentially being cold, understanding where they're at in that funnel, I think is super important. Those time windows really do matter for the sake of ad spend, your time, and your brain power. Don't fatigue your audience, understand where they're coming from, and kind of go from there. I think another one that a lot of people don't talk about enough is just the creative. So testimonials, UGC, behind the scenes. You don't have to have polished promotional material all the time. I know it's really, really hard and tough. But again, I mentioned this earlier, we want that personalized but genuine content. I can beat myself to my core before posting something. So actually my strategy as an entrepreneur and founder now is I record the video. I view it maybe once, but when I'm recording, I know if I messed up or not and I fix it and I just keep on going. Similar to public speaking, you can't be like, hold on, I am AI. I need to rewind and chop this so that this live audience didn't hear my mistake, right? Like just keep on going and that's fine too. Don't criticize yourself to your core. Just kind of let it go out there and fly and be the best content out there because we mess up and it's fine. And I think that's what's relatable. I will pause, but I have a funny story really fast.
Please.
I posted a video on TikTok, on my personal TikTok, which I'm a mom and I like to post controversial mom things on TikTok. And so my sister and my best friend's little sister called me the other day and they were like, can you stop like re-editing and re-recording your videos? Like just keep going. It's fine. We want it to be relatable like that. So hearing from the next generation that they're clearly not my target whatsoever because they're not moms. However, they were like, I would be interested in what you're saying, but you're making it too polished for me to even enjoy it. So remembering that, I think is important as well. Just a little side tip.
Definitely. Thank you for sharing that. And I want to make sure that we get to the question that Dan is asking. He says, so tell us the truth. Does retargeting involve listening to our conversations through Alexa?
Great question, Dan. I actually don't know how all of the listening to conversations with Alexa is going on right now. We live in Florida and our home flooded. I haven't had an Alexa in like a year, so I don't even know how accurate it is on listening at this point. But that's a great question. If anyone knows, I'd love to hear the answer. It's like similar to when you make a comment and you didn't research it at all, right? And then it starts popping up on your Facebook feed and you're like, how did you know this? I bet you at some point you had researched something similar. And then just so happened that it retargeted you at that moment. So yeah, good question, Dan.
100%. Thank you for asking that, Dan. If anyone else has any questions from the comments, be sure to ask and join our WhatsApp community, the Wednesday Winners, where we have guests, we have people who are going live on LinkedIn, so other podcast hosts, and it's a group of people who are just growing in general. So hop on over there to expand your circle. But let's, in the meantime, make sure that we're moving into our fourth topic. But before we do, I want to ask Garus, what's your take on social media retargeting? Any opinions here?
I mean, I have experience as a consumer on the retargeting side. I think it's interesting. A lot of times it'll serve me something I've already purchased. Like Home Depot will try and sell me a ladder that I just bought.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think it's got its place when it's done really well. It, I think, is almost it's a positive reminder of that thing that I actually wanted, versus an intrusion in my life. And I think that nuance is probably a difficult one to hit, but that when it happens, I'm like, okay, that was smart. Yeah, thank you, actually.
It reminds me of like when we go to the store with either my little sister or my daughter, and they're like, I want this, I want this, I want this. And we're like, take a picture, write it down. If you want it, we'll come back to it. And it's like my version of retargeting my kid. Like, except mine's like on my social media feed. And half the time it's me doing research. So when I launch Global Sprouts, I'm like continuously fed all of my competition now. And I'm like, or my own ads. And I'm like, I'm wasting money getting served my own ads right now. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Don't click.
Exactly. But then I engage with them because I wanted to have engagements on it to appear on other people's feed. And then I'm like,
I've done the same thing before. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Or like you see it and you forget, oh, it's an ad. Like I'm paying for it. And then you're like, shoot, I just charged myself.
My mom made a purchase through one of my ads. And I was like, you just cost me $50. Like, no, don't do that.
So funny. Thanks, Mom. We appreciate that. Okay. Moving back into video marketing. So video marketing strategy this time, Garus.
Yeah.
Switching gears back. So maximizing ROI beyond just view counts.
Yeah. And it's actually it's a perfect segue.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Kick us off there.
I just reframe it a little bit because like ROI is the official kind of way to talk about it, but I like to simplify it a bit and just say like, is my content working? Because I'll probably get myself in trouble with this one because there's a ton of nuance, especially around like video content and what the ROI actually is. So on the content side, or the part that's not paid, that kind of that mid-funnel content that I was alluding to earlier, you need time to learn because it's you put it out there and it's not necessarily just going to reach everybody right away. On the paid side, you'll have some learnings pretty quickly, but in each case, you're going to have to make some adjustments as you go. But I think the one of the biggest challenges I see in the video marketing side is measuring success by views, because they feel good and they're visible. They're really easy to report, but they don't tell you actually if like the video worked. So a lot of people, they do try to maximize views, but more impressions, doesn't equal more good necessarily. Like a campaign might rack up millions of impressions, but it still might not actually move the business forward. So what you're looking at with the views alone or the impressions is like you think you're getting signal, but it's actually just potentially noise because you're not actually reaching the right customer. So you're never going to be able to monetize that. What I would prefer is like actually low views and click-throughs and a higher conversion rate. Ideally it's both are high, but like if you're looking at it, really you want that conversion rate, because that means you're talking to the right person at the right time and they see value in the video content that you created and it's actually converting. So we actually, when we're looking at like the ROI, or is my content working, we're actually trying to look at or track things that impact the business. So, and the real ROI in video isn't about necessarily being seen. It's about creating, for the business, it's about creating clarity or confidence and like momentum in that buying journey. Because like it's not linear, right? It's kind of all over the place. So you just want to see some kind of progression. So when we only track those surface level metrics, you're actually missing like real signs of impact on the business. So when I was talking earlier, I was talking about like getting alignment with the internal team, and one of those things was determining kind of what your metrics of success is, or what your hypothesis is. If I do this, then this will happen. And that if this will happen part is what you're really trying to measure. And it is challenging to do. And this also relates to that kind of stage of funnel and story question in a way, because you also want to understand like where within the funnel does the video that we're creating exist, where within the funnel, and that'll dictate what we're measuring on it. So like awareness stuff, you're not diving deep into story, you're just getting people interested in your product versus, trying to clarify an offering. You can go with your story, it's a little bit deeper. And the goals for those things, or is this content working? Those goals are all different, depending on which stage of the funnel you're in. So, I think maybe in talking about like how to set the goal for what you're measuring is kind of important.
Yes.
And I really love talking to sales about that. So they're like the canary in the coal mine in a lot of ways. So I try and ask them like the two main questions, the ones that are most fruitful are like, what do you wish the person you were talking to, the prospect, the customer, what do you wish they already knew before they started talking to you? So, and what you're looking for is a change. So if you ask sales that question, what do you wish your prospect already knew before the first meeting? They're going to maybe they've got anecdotes that say like, the customer said, or ask them like, how complicated is your product to integrate into my workflow? So that would be like, okay, we're making content around that. And what you're looking for when you ask that question again, and that's kind of like probably a mid-funnel piece of content, you're going to want to wait a few quarters. You'll ask sales that same question again, and you want to be looking for a change. So you want them to come back and say something different. Like now they're saying, I wish they could see this as an investment and not an expense. And then you can go, okay, great. There was a change here. The video that we created about how it integrates into the workflow actually had an effect on the customer base. And now they've got this new problem. We can create content around that. So you're trying to measure that change. And the other change that we look at is, what's the most common objection are you getting? So sales is going to get lots of objections, but there's always going to be some that rise to the top. And if in your earlier planning, if one of the things you were trying to do is address one of those objectives, you're going to come back and ask the sales team the same thing. What's that objection? And if it's the same objection they're getting, then you got to look at like, okay, was it the way we position the content? Are they using the content? Maybe the story within that's not quite landing with the customer, and we need to tweak it. And so that those have real impacts on the business, and you want to be looking at changes over time on that. Some of the other things you could look at to see if the video is being effective, it's grazing against kind of like impressions, but it's a little bit nuanced. So you'd look at things like replay and rewatch times, because that means that you've earned that second look. So the audience is engaged in some way, and they're like, oh, I want to rewatch that part, which is also a clue for maybe another piece of content you need to make, or possibly a clue of something you need to clarify a little bit more. There's also kind of the idea of like efficiency gains. So within the company, like, is the customer using more of the product? Is there time saved in onboarding or training and approvals, things like that? So there's a lot of other metrics that you can start looking at that affect the business beyond just like, oh, I got a dopamine hit from like all these people that watched it and it was great.
That's incredible. Thank you so much for sharing that. Before I share anything on that, I'm curious, Whitney, what's your take on all that?
Yeah. So is there a way on the analytics side for the back end of videos to know where they're replaying and rewatching?
Yeah. It depends on the platform you're using. So if you're on YouTube, you can actually see a graph of what the watch history is.
Okay.
And it'll kind of make this shape, and you'll see like, oh, they watched here and then they went back and watched again, because there'll be like a little spike in it. And so you can determine it from that. There's another, this actually might relate to your email marketing piece, but there's two companies. One's called Wistia and the other one's called Vidyard. And they do a lot of like analytics and tracking that you can see those types of things, especially the rewatch. I love the rewatch one, because it's like either you nailed it and they're like, oh my God, I have to watch this part over and over again, or there's like a point of confusion. You actually want to pull that part out and like make another piece of content on it, and then see what the results are from that.
100%.
Thank you. It's good to know, right? Because we're trying to figure out the next steps for one of our clients. Is it long form video, or is it continuously staying in short form video? When it comes to like the overarching strategy and how do we promote that, and what marketing tools are we using? So it's good to know that you can analyze it that way.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're not an expert in video, clearly.
Well, but what you're pointing out, though, is interesting, because you can start and create short form content, and that's super valuable. But the other piece of all of this that I think is missed sometimes with video is looking at it as one solution. So if you make a long form piece of content, you actually have probably at least a few dozen short form pieces of content, right? So that reuse and recycle is really, that's also related to the ROI, right? Because you're investing in this one long form piece of content, and over time you can amass a library of long form content. But while you're doing that, it's going to pay dividends for you, because you can go back and segment those things to make smaller pieces. On the animation side, we actually plan for that usually at the beginning. So it's part of the overarching strategy that we design for any of our clients.
Yeah. I think that's really great. And, I think people should definitely be paying attention to video, because, well, I don't know, AI is getting really good, but it is hard to replicate, like conversations like this. But I'm curious, now that I mentioned AI, how are you using AI in your video marketing strategy, Garus?
We use it a lot for like research and things like that. There's a lot of controversy in our industry about it, because it encroaches on like the creative side of things really quickly. So I'm always cautious about how I talk about it, but there are definite uses for it in our industry. And I think like that's why our business is about, there is the craft and the execution of it, but there's the planning of what are we actually going to make? What are we actually going to say? And you can kind of use tools to make scripts and things like that, but there's no AI tool that's going to go into your organization and say, all of these different people have these opinions on what we're supposed to make. How do we actually take all of that and create a plan that we can test and go forward with? And you can use AI to fill in little gaps here and there for that. But I've never seen, especially at like an enterprise level organization, that work if it's not us having multiple strategy and planning sessions with them to figure out what we're actually going to make. On the art side of it, it's great for a lot of stuff. It's great for testing an idea. It's great for exploring what's possible. And it's getting better at feedback and nuance. And I think it will eventually get there. But where it is right now today, if you have a conversation about, we need this one little change made here, it's going to make all the difference. It sort of falls apart at that point. But it'll get there eventually.
One day. Yeah. Well, this was a great topic. Thank you both for chiming in on all of the topics. And as we wrap up, I want to make sure we get to, drumroll, the guru of the week. Ooh. Layla, can you please help us pull up the gurus? And could you both tell us why we should go follow these people on LinkedIn?
Do you want to go first?
Yeah. Caitlin provides so much on her background in marketing. She has almost 15 years in the marketing industry. So she is a great guru to follow on LinkedIn when it comes to integrated marketing, omni-channel marketing, and just understanding how each platform kind of ties together. She has so many great cool ideas, especially if you're looking for anything in construction, being a mom, homeschooling, and hockey. So a totally different, like wide variety of industries she can tap into. So that's why I like following her.
Awesome. That's cool. So I didn't know we'd have to talk about this, but it's actually great. I should have told Joel that I was going to talk about him. So Joel and I have worked together since, I don't know how long, since before 2017. So quite a while. So Joel is a founder of a similar business to mine, and now he is a business coach for entrepreneurs and people in the creative industry. And he has a community called Forum, which I'm part of, which is the top 100 studios, that animation and live action production studios in the world. And we all get together weekly and have discussions. And there are, I'm sure, openings in that. So if you like work in a similar industry in the video space, he'd definitely be someone to check out. And the power of that community is super cool. I've learned so much over the years. It's helped me grow my business, and I couldn't say anything any better about Joel. He's a great guy. And then I just have to also plug my thing. So if you guys are interested in any of the things I was talking about, if you go to the website, buythebooth.com/playbook, there's like an outline of everything that we talked about today and a little bit more.
Amazing. Thank you both for sharing your guru of the week. And with that, I do want to leave just a little bit of space. I know we're over, for both of you to let listeners know how they could find you after the episode if they want to reach out. So we typically ask, what is it that you do? Who do you serve? How do you serve them? And if they could be served by you, how could they reach you? So Whitney, could you let our listeners know?
I could. I am Whit from Guam on every social media platform out there. My high school colleagues gave me that name because they were fascinated that this Chamorro girl was in their school, and I became Whit from Guam. So Whit from Guam on all platforms, and I can help you with marketing strategies. If you're trying to launch a business, I'm on my third successful business now, at a very young age. So if there's any young women listeners out there like me who lied about their age for the longest time until I turned 21 because I was so young, I'm here to be a supportive ear and help you launch your company, give you all the details, the ins and outs, and also talk marketing strategies. It's one of my favorite things to do now. So let me know if you need any help. More than happy to help.
Amazing. And I saw that you joined the Wednesday Winners WhatsApp group. Thank you, Whit. And we've got the Women Wave Warriors too. And that's a women in sales and marketing. So the second link I dropped in there, Garus, you might not want to click that one. But yeah, I just put that in our private chat here. If you want to join the Women Wave Warriors, we'd love to have you there too. I suggest muting both of those groups, but checking in on a daily basis. Lots going on there. But Garus, could you please share the same? What is it exactly you do? Who do you serve? And if they could be served by you, how do they reach you?
Yeah. I feel the love. I don't have to be part of the group. I feel it. It's all good. It's my first name and last name, Garus Booth. Mostly I'm on LinkedIn. If you want to see like woodworking stuff, Instagram, it's the same, my first and last name. But that's not work related. It's mostly me like working in the shop and doing stuff like that. So work related, LinkedIn, or you can go to the website bythebooth.com. And yeah, if you're a marketer at a global brand or a ambitious B2B company, I would love to talk to you. And, even if it's just to like bounce some ideas around, I might be able to help out and direct you in the right direction if we can't work together. But that would be great.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing, Garus. And thanks to both of you for coming. We appreciate you staying up late with us here on Wednesday. And to our listeners, we're looking forward to another really great episode next week. I'll put myself down here so we don't cover you up. We've got Riley Newman, founder at Brand Strategist, and Victor Kimball, CMO at Preston Spire. So that's going to be another great episode of Wednesday. But until then, I hope everyone has a really great episode. And thanks again, Whitney and Garus, for stopping out tonight.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, everyone.